welcome back to the channel. It's time to recap the last few days for me. I decided to take a drive up the California coast to the Pismo Beach / Morro Bay area. If you guys haven't been there, I highly recommend it. It's very beautiful, as you guys probably saw from the intro, and it's just a fun time all around with or without poker. But as we all know, this is a poker vlog, and I did manage to find a quiet little room called Central Coast Casino, about 5 or 10 minutes inland from the coast. And to put it lightly, this place is interesting. Different than any other place I'd played poker at before, so figured I'd give you guys the rundown of pros and cons. If you manage to ever make it out here, you'll know what to expect, at least a little bit. So without wasting any more time, let's jump into some of the things I noticed about this poker room. Starting off with some of the good things about this place, number one for me is gonna be game quality. There's hardly any pros there, if any at all. A lot of gambling, a lot of fun to be had, and just a lot of mistakes being made at the table, to be honest with you guys. For me, that's what's most important in any poker game, regardless of how nice the room is. Secondly, the rake. They do a progressive rake as opposed to a flat drop like it is in LA. What that means is they take a small percentage of the pot, up to $5, instead of just 6 or 7 down the hole every single time, no matter what, like they do here in LA. So that's gonna help your win rate and just make it overall easier to win money, especially at these low stake games, which are already hard enough to beat the rake on. And lastly, home cooked meals. This room is so tiny that I'm not sure if they do this every day or just once in a while, but when I was there was a nice lady, not even sure if she was employed by the casino, but there was a table out here. I'll cut to the footage right now because I filmed it for you guys, with a bunch of food, fresh made for anyone who wants some, and also complimentary soda machine right next to it. So if you guys are looking for a place to enjoy a nice meal, here you go. But of course, there's always the cons, so let's just jump into those right now. First and foremost, this room is super tiny. I'm talking like smaller than the inside of a 7-Eleven. There's 4 tables in there, very, very cramped, makes it hard to move around, and it's just not the most comfortable experience overall. Secondly, the security there is just non-existent. The way you walk in is through this dinky little gate, you walk in the door, and there you go, you're in the poker room. So if you're gonna walk out to the car late at night, at least make sure your awareness is on point. And lastly, this room just doesn't offer a lot of games, obviously due to the nature that they have 4 tables total, but I think 1-3 is the biggest they get. I heard sometimes they get 2-5 going. They also have some mixed games, but for the most part, if you guys are no limit players, which I assume most of you are, there's just not a lot of options at this room. I think this is a cool place to play. I had a really good time, and at the very least, it'll give you a unique experience. Like I said, it's unlike any other room I've played in. Overall, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Obviously, it's nothing special and doesn't really compare to some of the big name casinos, but at the very least, it's worth trying once. Anyway, that brings us to the actual session. I was on vacation with a friend, couldn't play for too long because of that, but did manage to get in quite a few interesting spots nonetheless, and obviously got them all on camera for you guys. So without any further ado, let's jump into this session of 1-3, in for 300. Let's see if we can run it up. Alright, so we are underway here in Grover Beach, playing some No Limit Texas Hold'em, and waste absolutely no time in getting involved. I'm almost a little embarrassed. I've gotten some comments about how many hands I pick up. It's not really up to me, guys. But right off the first orbit, I look down at pocket kings in the cutoff. There's 2 limpers. I elect to raise it up to $20. The first limper calls and the second limper folds. So heads up in position to a flop which brings the dreaded ace, but no problem, also brings a king. Ace, king, queen with 2 clubs. He checks it over to me. I'm not really a fan of slow playing. I think fast playing is almost always the best option when you have good hands. But given that he only had around $40 behind, which is a pot-sized bet, I think it's a good spot to check it back and allow him to potentially bluff turns or just think that his ace is good. So that's what I decide to do after he checks it to me. We see a turn which is a little overkill at this point, the King of Hearts. So we turn 4 of the exact same card, and even better news is that our opponent shoves all in. Bad timing, man. A bit of a shame that this isn't a bigger pot, but can't really complain when you make 4 of a kind. The river comes the inconsequential Jack of Hearts. We're off to a good start. At this point, we're joined at the table by a new player who I can only describe as a really cool, outgoing donation machine. A cool guy, but raising every hand and doesn't really know how to fold. I'm not even sure if he knows that he's allowed to do that, but anyway, in this next hand, he opens from early position to $20 off of a $300 stack, and I look down at ace-3 of diamonds. This hand more than qualifies to play against this specific opponent, so I make the call and everyone else folds. We go heads up to a flop of 8-5 deuce with 1 diamond, and he continues for $20. I expect him to continue with literally 100% of his range. So with ace high and some potential backdoors, we could still be ahead, and if not, we have somewhat decent equity. So I make the call, and we see a turn which is the ace of hearts. So we make top pair, but our opponent doesn't slow down. He puts in a bet of $30. Nothing to do here but just make the call, I think, so that's what I decide to do. And the river rolls off a jack. Our opponent once again puts in a bet, all 3 barrels unloaded, this time to the tune of $65. Holding the worst possible ace, we don't beat any value here, but as we both know by now, you guys can probably guess where this is going. I don't really like to fold, especially in close spots. I lean more towards calling, so this time was no exception, especially against this guy. And sure enough, he shows us 6-3 of hearts. So we take it down versus the old 6 high, and it looks like we're in for a bit of a ride. For those of you who did not see the last episode I put out, I introduced a new term called FIGO, which stands for "F is going on?" A thought that I'm sure many of you guys have encountered during your poker hands. I figured it would just make it easier for everyone if I label those hands with a little sticker and we're all on the same page about what is about to go down. So this next hand is indeed a FIGO hand. I'm in the straddle with Queen 10 offsuit. There's an under the gun limp, the small blind limps in, and our friend in the big blind raises it up to $17. It might seem like an odd amount, but really, it was just all of the $1 chips that he had in his stack, which so far had been the standard raise from this player. I actually contemplate a small 3-bet here just to get position against our opponent and be able to go heads up, but I decide on a flat, and both of the limpers behind make the call as well. So 4 ways to a flop, which comes down 10-9-3 rainbow. The big blind overbets the pot, puts in $90 with $200 behind. And this is the exact problem with not 3-betting pre-flop. We have a good hand, obviously, in top pair, but we still have to worry about the under the gun and small blind players behind us. In spots like these, I like to slow down a little bit and see if I can pick up any kind of body language from the opponents behind me that might indicate what they're going to do. And as you guys can see here, the player on my left under the gun has preloaded a fold, and then the player in the small blind starts telling the guy next to him that he still has 2 more cards to come to improve his hand, which essentially just means he's drawing. So just by waiting a few seconds, I already somewhat have an idea of where I stand in the hand. The big blind, who is the original bettor, has around $200 behind, and given this exact opponent, I think just getting the money in here is best while denying equity from the small blind, who appears to be drawing, as I said. So that's what I decided to do. Shove all in for around 400 effective. The under the gun player quickly makes the fold, and the small blind indeed confirms that he was drawing, but decides to let it go. The big blind, however, snap calls.
I just got a 10, man.
A little worrisome, but he rolls over pocket 8s, so we're in pretty good shape Turns a little sketchy, 7 of spades, giving him additional outs, but the river comes a king, and we manage to hold, all the while thinking FIGO. A few orbits later, we pick up king, queen of clubs in the big blind. The straddle is on, and we see a cutoff limp, and the button, who is the special player from the previous hand with pocket eights, also limps in. I raise it up to $30, the straddler folds, and both the cutoff and button make the call. So we see a flop 3 ways, which comes down king, jack, 8, rainbow. It's kind of a strange spot being out of position to a pretty tight player in the cutoff, but a loose, aggressive player on the button. In this exact spot, I think checking is best because we get to see what the tight player does while at the same time letting the button bluff when the action checks to him. So that's what I do, check it. Unfortunately, it ends up checking around. So I'm planning on betting pretty much any turn card except for the one that ends up coming out, which is a jack. Seems like either player behind us can easily have a jack. I expect most draws or kings to bet, but jacks to check back on the flop. So I decided to play it a little cautiously, check one more time, see what happens behind me. The cutoff bets $15 and the button makes the call. Raising seems a little too thin, so I decided to just make the call and see what happens on the river, which comes an offsuit deuce. I check it one more time, the cutoff bets 15 again. The button folds, and I think we have a pretty clear check raise here. Kind of a strange line, but I'm pretty sure we have the best hand almost always, given how the hands played out. I think for the most part, he's going to be betting bigger with a jack. So I raise it up to $70. He doesn't think for too long and folds pocket nines face up. So it seems like we got close to max value, even though I played the hand a little bit weird just because of who the button was. Anyway, happy to take it down. And at this point, I was up around 500 or so, but ended up giving a little bit back to the action player on my right. As you guys can probably understand, I ended up paying him off in a couple of spots with some pretty light call downs. Like this one right here, he limps in from middle position. I raise to $15 with ace queen. He makes the call with around $30 behind, and we see a flop heads up of 7-4 deuce rainbow. He shoves his stack in. Versus this guy, I'm not looking to fold ace high, so I make the call. Get shown 9-4 and we don't improve. Just a few little spots like that where I'd call pretty light against him or raise to isolate and completely miss the flop. This player finally lost all the cash he came with, which was around 3 or 4 buy-ins. The table started to play really passively after that, so I decided to call it a night, go grab some dinner, and enjoy the rest of Pismo Beach. Alright, so that concludes the hands for this vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed watching them as much as I enjoyed playing them. Got into the game for 300, and I think I got out for around 700. I'm not sure, you guys will probably see it right here. But overall, a success, especially considering that it was my first time there and only played for a couple of hours. Anyway, before I wrap this video up, I have one quick announcement to make. At the end of October, I'm going to be heading east on an airplane to Ohio, Pennsylvania, and I think I might stop at Detroit at some point. Not really sure on the exact details yet, but for any of you guys who are local to those areas and happen to play Texas Hold'em around there, you'll probably see me in your local casino. Shoot me a message on Instagram. The link is in the bio if you guys want to link up, and it should be at the very least good vlog content. Alright, so that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Thank you guys for watching as always. Thank you for giving this video a thumbs up if you did. It really helps me out and it helps the channel grow. And I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, good luck at the tables. Peace.